Well, let me just begin by welcoming all of you to the governor's residence, and in many cases, welcoming you back to the governor's residence. You know, as Lori and I get ready to welcome about 100 folks from across Pennsylvania to celebrate the Passover Seder, a year from our last Seder that obviously ended in violence, political violence, and tragedy here in this room. We have had the opportunity to take stock and to work through a number of things, both as parents and as public servants. And as I think I've said to many of you individually, that's a process that's ongoing. And we think that today is an important part of that process. What has been so important to us and so healing to us have been the prayers and the offerings of strength and words of healing that we have received from people all across Pennsylvania, all across this country, especially people who don't worship like us and who come to their religions with different practices, different approaches, but with the same through line in our faiths, in our shared humanity. And those prayers have truly strengthened us. I've remarked to you that for me, I've always been a person who prays, a prayerful person, but I've never felt the strength of other people's prayers in the way that we have throughout this process, particularly in the hours and the days and the weeks thereafter. I've spent some time in your religious settings, and I've spent some time in your presence. And I want you to know that that has been incredibly important to me and incredibly healing to me and to Lori and to our kids. I have felt it at Salem Baptist Church as much as I have felt it at my own synagogue. And I just want you to know how grateful we are to each and every one of you. I think it is important also that we gather here today, you as leaders of our faith communities here in Pennsylvania and as the governor and first lady, to once again reiterate that political violence has no place in our society, no matter who it is targeting and no matter who is the aggressor in that case. And so I think it is important that we reaffirm our commitment to peace and that we reaffirm our commitment to those principles of understanding that there may be disagreements, but violence is never the answer. The last thing I want to say is this, that as we were here a year ago celebrating Passover, I was drawing on the lessons of what I've learned in my faith to lead that Seder. And I felt that day that I had a deep connection to my own religion. And I felt proud that I was able to share that with others who were here at the governor's residence, in the place that William Penn started, a place that would be centered around this whole idea of religious freedom, this whole idea that anyone would be welcome here to practice their faith as they wish. After what occurred, and in the year that we've experienced since, I found that my own connection to my faith was strengthened because of the ways in which I have seen leaders of other faiths invite me in, invite Lori in, and show us our shared humanity, show us those common threads of our faith. And so I wanted to say thank you to each and every one of you for actually allowing me to be closer to my own religion and allowing me to find deeper meaning in our faith. And so I wanted to say thank you for that. And I especially want to thank John Wordle. John is, you know, I've shared the story of the prayer that he gave us that day, about 4 days after the fire, when we went to thank all the firefighters, the chaplain of the Penn Township Fire Department, who shared.
I don't even have a church. All these folks.
I know. You got a firehouse. That's cooler than a church. Come on, right? Right, Pastor? It's got to be cooler, yeah. But you gave me a prayer that meant a lot to you from the book of Deuteronomy, and you had no idea at the time that it's the same prayer that Lori and I recite over our children nightly, a prayer to safeguard them and to protect them. And I just want you to know that that is an example that I cite often of that shared humanity, of that connectedness through our faiths. And I want to thank you for what you taught me in that moment with that gesture, and how that has allowed me to be centered in my own faith in a deeper way. You're a very special man to me, and I want to say thank you. And I have that prayer you gave me in my office down the hall there, so
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, John.
You're very precious to me and our family and the fire company.
Thank you.
They love you too.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm grateful you're all here. So I've talked enough. I want to hear from you, and I'd love to hear from you as we get set to embark on our Seder here, and we get set to celebrate Easter on Sunday. I'd love to just hear what's on your mind, particularly given everything that's going on in the world and everything that we've experienced here. And so I'll open it up. Whoever wants to start, Bishop, if you'd like to begin, and then we should just have a conversation.
Well, Governor and First Lady, thank you so much for this opportunity to come together with you. I think all of us have been inspired by how your family really endured with faith, but experienced this, and I think an assault on one family of faith is an assault on all families of faith, and so we recognize that. But your courage and continued perseverance, it's just been really wonderful. So, and it's a grace to be part of this today, especially at this time of the year in both of our faith traditions. I do what you were. You spoke so well and articulately, even in the midst of the crisis, Governor, about the fact that political violence is never okay. Yeah. I remember you saying that, and it is so true. And yet we live in a world where it's becoming all too commonplace. And I think the bar is lowered, and it begins with our public discourse so often. The way that we what's happening here. We have to begin, and we as faith leaders are really challenged to model that respect for human dignity. And at the core of that is respect for our beliefs. Yeah. So thank you for your courage and for your witness as a family, and particularly in your leadership here in the Commonwealth.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been I can't imagine all that you went through, but it certainly is a reminder to us of how precious our faith is, and how important it is for us to be fostering unity as faith leaders.
Absolutely. I know, Pastor Mitchell, I think you were about to jump in. I just want to say to you, to all of you, I think our politicians need to hear more from all of you.
Yeah.
Not to preach at us or tell anybody what to believe, but the modeling of the kind of behavior that you just spoke of is important, and I think you all play a really important role in that process. And I thank you for the example you've set. You and I knew each other when you were in Lower Merion in Montgomery County, and it's wonderful to see you here now leading the diocese in Harrisburg.
Thank you, Governor.
Well, I'll say amen to what the bishop said.
Right.
We were all outraged, angry. We felt personally attacked because you were attacked and your family was attacked. Your faith was attacked. And ultimately, the entire Commonwealth and the sensibility of the American people. So I think it's powerful to see all of us sitting together, making sure people know this is no to political violence, no to religious violence, that we're all reading from different books, but we're on the same page. And protecting your humanity meant a lot at Salem Baptist Church. I got calls from people very early in the morning and said, "What's up? Do we need to go to Harrisburg?" And, we had to calm the posse and say what is needed now is prayer and responsibility and healing. And the fact that we sit in the same room, we don't smell smoke. See the beauty of this room and the craftsmanship and artisanship of people. But more than that, I think it tells us we can't dwell on the ugliness.
Yeah.
And that we have to always move forward and work together as one. So I think seeing us all here today just reiterates that point.
Amen. Thank you. Mom?
So again, Governor, First Lady, thank you again for having us in the residence.
We celebrate Iftar here together. a few weeks
Exactly.
ago.
So we were here for Iftar a few weeks ago, but right before the attack happened, we were here for Iftar,
Yeah.
like right before that as well.
Yeah.
So, for us to come here and have a great time, we prayed here in this room right here, and to know that space was desecrated in that way, it hurt deeply. And so our prayers were with you at the time, but also, to know that even our, house of worship had been, desecrated a few times over the last several years too. And we're thankful for, the work of the administration to put the security grants in place for us to get people in place to help us secure ourselves because, there's prayers, then you also have to do the actual practical things to keep us safe. And we see the additions around here as well. But for me, I think it's a time of bridge building. We have to continue to bridge build or build bridges between ourselves because those that want to divide us, those that want to continue to make the current discourse common, want to keep us apart. So I thank you again for bringing us here today to see each other, to hear from each other, and learn from each other, and feel connected to each other so that any time, any place of worship is attacked, we all feel some common disruption. In our faith, we say that, that brothers and sisters of the faith are like one body. And if one part of the body hurts, the entire body aches. And so we should all ache when you're attacked, when anyone here is not safe in their home or in their place of worship. We should not accept that as Americans and as people of faith. So thank you once again. Appreciate you.
Imam, and I want to come to this side table. I want to share with you that image of, closing out Ramadan prayers that day on the carpet that was right here in this room is etched in my mind because it's the exact same place where kids were dancing at our son Ruben's bar mitzvah, and the exact same place where we have a Christmas tree around Christmas time. And I like a lot of big Christmas trees around Christmas time here. And I just think about that a lot, that this is what should happen in this place. This is what should happen in Pennsylvania, right? The place where Penn wanted us all to be together. Probably didn't imagine guys like you and me sitting here at the time, but might be proud of that.
Yeah, you probably would.
So I think a lot about that, and that Iftar was a really special moment for me. All of them have been, but that in particular.
Thank you.
Rabbi? Speaking of the bar mitzvah, right? You led the bar mitzvah for Reuben.
Well, I want to say thank you also. I know coming together at the anniversary of an event, there's always a lot of emotion. And in Judaism, we mark Yartzeit because we know that anniversary is, you can feel it in the body. So I just want to just be there with you in that feeling. I remember, well, first I want to say that I was so lucky to be at a Seder here, one of the first years that you guys were in this house, and how incredibly much it meant to me to be in this place, having visited when the previous governor was here and been here for a beautiful Christmas celebration. As a Jewish person, as a mother of young children, and as a rabbi, it meant so much to me to see Judaism in this public place, especially being a Jew in the world right now. And so I remember very poignantly when I heard the news of what happened last year. It was after the second day of Passover because I didn't have my phone on. And right away I said, what are we doing? What's going on? What response is happening? And I didn't hear of anything. And so I, thankfully, because we have such a strong interfaith network here in Harrisburg, we do a Freedom Seder, we do programs throughout the year. I had a whole network of people to reach out to, and right away we had this wonderful march on, within just a day put together where we marched from Bethel Temple, where I serve, just a few blocks from here, past my house, 2 blocks from here, over to the parking lot across the street, and we had folks offering prayers from all different faith traditions. Some of you and your churches and houses of worship were represented, and we were singing like Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, there should be peace, and Salam and Shalom, and folks from the Hadi Mosque, and so many friends that we had were there, and it meant so much to me as a Jewish person to feel that solidarity in Harrisburg. We had a big sign that said "Hate has no home in Harrisburg," and people wanted to be there for you and your family, and they wanted to be there for anyone who was feeling victimized or triggered by the attack. And it really reminds me of the theme of Passover specifically. We learn that we're supposed to, in the Seder, tell a narrative that goes from gnut leshevach, from disgrace to praise. So we start with telling the story of Israelite enslavement in Egypt and how difficult and burdensome and how terrible the oppression was. And then we end the Seder night with Hallel, with songs of praise to God and acknowledging the wonderful things we have here. And I think that's really the story of this event. It's like mignut leshevach. It was from a disgrace, a smear on, American and Pennsylvanian history, to a story about people coming together and showing solidarity and love and beauty. And I've seen that happen countless times. Even, there have been other unfortunate anti-Semitic and Islamophobic and other moments of religious hatred in the area recently, and I've seen such beautiful ways of coming together. The bishop invited me to speak at an event the diocese put on for Holocaust Remembrance Day, and sent me this beautiful letter and picture of the Pope at the Western Wall. And so it really feels like, as horrible it is when these things happen, there's such an opportunity to go from disgrace to praise, and to build moments of solidarity and strength out of those moments. So I appreciate all that you and your family have done to do that, and this whole community, the way it's come together. And it means a lot to me on Passover and throughout the year.
Thank you, Rabbi. It's really beautiful. And I really admire the leadership role you play, the bishop plays, and others do here in this tight-knit Harrisburg community. I've been super impressed by how everyone kind of has everybody's back, and you all work really well together. I think that shows that's a sign of real strength in this community, and I know you're one of the leaders in that effort, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Governor and First Lady, to giving me this opportunity. My name is Vibhishan Reddy. I go by VB. I know we met you a few times in the Diwali functions.
Yep.
First, again, very happy to be here and sharing the dais with other leaders. I came from, I born and brought up in very oldest religion, Hindu religion, where the Hindu religion says the respect all religions. That's what where I born and brought up and learned, and respect all religions, no violence. That's what the Hinduism says. So no violence in the place anywhere, no matter the political violence or any violence at all. That's what we do not respect that. And especially after knowing this incident at last year, I did follow through the some of the Facebook lives and press releases, and I felt very bad. Technically, it really should not have happened. But basically, it's not only just happened to you; it's basically happened to the community of Pennsylvania, entire Pennsylvanian. It's attack on Pennsylvanians. So you do. Especially where you support all religions, you support faith, you welcome everyone here. Mm-hmm. This country welcomes everyone and respects every religion. In this area, it should not have happened, that incident. And as faith, we respect. When you believe on faith, when you believe on any religion, we should completely avoid on violence, either politically or, humanly. So, especially in this situation where we are in this world right now, based on the news, where we are seeing a lot of news worldwide, even in this country, lot of against to blaming each on other religions, which we should avoid that. We should respect every religion. That's what we say. And I'm again thankful for you to allow me to speak here. And we hope this will pass this days. Maybe I know even in the politically, when you see all the news from the White House or everywhere, I don't want to be that side, but there is attack on some religions. There is attack on some based on your color, religion, which we should avoid that. This country is for everybody, and you allow that, and especially Pennsylvania is where this started independence, and you allow everyone to welcome here and live their lives. allow everybody has their own religion, own respect and everything. But now we see different areas which we should avoid that. And finally, we say in language when we learn from the child, we say like sabka malik ek. That means you can pray as many as God you want, but every God is same. You may read different books, Bhagavad Gita, or you can read Allah or anything, but God is only one God. Where you should have a peace and respect. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. The shared humanity.
Shared humanity. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Governor, firstly, thank you so much inviting us, all of us here at the same table. This is not the first time. I've been here a couple times before. Matter of fact, when the attack happened, we were here just a couple weeks prior to that with the AAIP meeting with the commission.
Yeah.
So it was a shocking. Whatever attack happened to you, this first family, it happened to all of us. I think we all felt very deeply, knowing the kids were here, you guys were here. So it was felt all over this state, if not the whole country. So thank you for having us here on the same tables. Thank you for giving us the equal platform. There's a verse in Sikhism, Eko hai, hum eko hai. That means we all one.
We all.
We all one. We all created as one by the one God. The other one is Manaski Jat Sabe Ke Pahchan. Every human race, every human being, we recognize as the same. It comes to hatred. This world has no place for hatred or discrimination based on color, religion, anything, caste. So really appreciate having, this is encouragement actually, throughout the whole interfaith of religions, that there is somebody in the state really worry about the whole thing and want everybody bring together on the same table, talk about it, so we won't have any issues. We could learn from the past and work on the present and look for the future. With your leadership, sir, we definitely see that. So thank you for your hard work, keeping Pennsylvania safe. I'm right here, Harrisburg. So appreciate for everything and bringing us together. Thank you. Thank you, First Lady.
I want to ask you a question based on what you just said. We are one, that concept of being one. And if I'm being honest, I've struggled with that. We experienced this violence, and then almost immediately we experience that oneness that you're talking about, and you are illustrative of that, and that strengthened us.
Yes.
And then as the days and the weeks and the months went on, and you get back in the rhythms of your day to day, and you referenced this before, some of the vitriol and the hatred that exists out there that unfortunately manifests itself in our politics today. I struggled to try and sort of figure out whether the goodness that I was seeing from folks every day who were praying for us and lifting us up and speaking with that one voice, but then not matching the sort of politics and the discourse, and no disrespect to anyone here, but what we see in the media, and how to square that, right? And I wonder, when you stand on your pulpit, when you preach, when you share the word from your book, and you encourage people to see that shared humanity, and then you leave the walls of your church or your congregation and you go out and you see this hatred out there every day, how do you square that? I mean, how do you work through that? Because I struggle with that. And I try as hard as I can to just listen to regular folks in the community who actually model good behavior most days, right? And to search for that and find that. And I'm just curious how you do that, how you find that strength, and what lessons, frankly, I can learn.
I think it's just the individuality. It makes you stronger in your belief. see as all human race as a one. And whoever you come across with, your friends or family, and you share that with them. I think that's, love thy neighbor. Beautiful thing. But you got to share it with your neighbors. Hey, and don't be afraid to say if you see something bad, and say something.
Call it out.
Otherwise, call it out.
I would say, there is an important, when a crisis like this happens, I think it stirs up that common experience that we have of the emotional experience, our love for our faith, our love for our family, and in an attack on something very deeply personal. It was Palm Sunday morning that I learned of the attack on your home and your family, and I was actually in my chapel, just doing my regular prayer routine in the morning on Palm Sunday before I went to the cathedral, and I got a text from Eric Failing, who's the executive director of the Pennsylvania Catholic Conference, and he said, Bishop, have you heard about the attack on the governor's mansion? And I immediately thought, Passover. Last night was the first night of Passover. And having been close to a Jewish family that I'm and have had the Seder and being moved by that so deeply, that struck a chord in my heart right away. I couldn't imagine that it sort of exacerbated any kind of attack that was an assault on faith that I felt as an assault, especially on days that are really important in my faith.
Yeah.
So I think we really need to stir that common humanity up, make people aware of it. And you're right to challenge us, because we do have that pulpit, and we have people where they're hopefully listening to us, and at that time. But to make people conscious of that this is not something that is, that's consistent with our vision of what God calls us to be, what the Almighty has created us to live like. So, but I felt it right from the very beginning, and I think lots of people did, for sure, and I think we need to make people conscious of that and to let that shape their actions and shape their speech.
Yeah.
That's where that violence really finds its, I think, the spark that lights the flame of violence is those words that we say to each other that can be very, very harsh.
Well, so this could be kind of a little controversial amongst people of faith, different faiths, right? But we all believe, right, in the oneness of our humanity. Not everybody believes that, and so we have to go out and get converts, right? We have to go out and convert people to that belief, and there's no better way of doing that than showing up for each other. I think that there's some things that are learned, that you can tell a person, but it's a whole different thing when you actually show up and walk the walk. So I think, there are people that come from different backgrounds. They're taught all types of things. And what we see, the difference that we see is that you're seeing people who believe in common humanity, and you're seeing that that's what they practice and try their best to adhere to. And then there's a world out there of people who don't believe that. And it's our job to gain more
But
converts.
how do we, I'm going to press you on that.
Wait, press me. Come on, let's go.
How do we do that? I mean, we had a beautiful iftar here a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
I found that to be an incredibly spiritual gathering. It was an honest back and forth, and we were really open with one another. And I guess our team, posted something on social media that we had gathered for an iftar, and I mean, some of the most vile comments. Right. Some of the most vile comments.
Yeah.
You can imagine what they were, because I was with you.
Right.
And by the way, you probably got some vile comments from me. Absolutely. How do we overcome that?
So
How do we deal with that? I mean, it's one thing on a Sunday when you preach and it's beautiful and people walk out feeling a certain way, but how do we correct that? How do we create a little bit more understanding and get rid of some of that darkness?
So there's an old saying: if you have two glasses of water, one is dirty, one is beautifully, clear, right? What's clean and pure is clear from that which is, dirty and ugly, right? So I think you have to, shine a light on it, right? And it's almost as if, some of us act our best in front of our parents or in front of people that we respect, right? If we're off to ourselves in the dark, sometimes we do things that we wouldn't want anyone to see. So sometimes it's just shining a light on it. right? If you highlight sometimes the things that are great and then put it right beside the things that are not so great, I think people can see themselves a bit clearer. And those that have, good hearts can see the difference. And that's what we try to do. We try to show the difference between what's good and, and pure and things that are not so great. And people have to then choose. In our belief and in our tradition, there's a saying, La ikraha fi din. There's no compulsion in religion, right? What is good stands out clear from what is not good. And so this is the comparison that we show, and we allow people to choose.
Marsha, I know you got something to add.
For sure. Our best times are when we're together, when we're seated at these tables, having these honest and frank conversations together. And when we leave the tables, we go back to the world. It's almost as if sitting at the table is our Sabbath, where we hear things differently. We pause from all the work of doing religion and playing to our teams and talking to our teams, but we don't have that luxury when we sit at the table. And before we came here, before you arrived today, it's almost as if you had the making of a very bad joke. A bishop, an imam, a rabbi, a Baptist, and two priests. We had the best time.
Right.
We were sharing about our faiths and learning, and the peace and the humanity we had at that moment has to be captured, contained, and then also shared. And I think that's where the responsibility starts. When we do go to our homes, and my faith teaches us that we're to be priests of our own household, not just of the church, not just of the temple, not just of the mosque, but we're to be priests of our own households. And if we start at that cellular level at the household and know that's wrong, this is right, if you start there, you don't give a lot of wiggle room, because then it becomes household to household, generation to generation, and it sticks. And I think we make the mistake of leaving this place, the Sabbath ends, we go back to our work, and we forgot that actually the real goal was for us to be at the same table. And unfortunately, we've seen this in our country's history. Probably the most united time in our lives was after 9/11. And probably the most divided times in our life happened after 9/11. And so we can either use the power of those moments for good or for evil.
Do you think this table, and I'm sorry, Rob, does this table represent where the majority of folks are, you think, but maybe just the loudest voices are the ones that drown out what happens at tables like this? Or do you think this table is heard now in the minority and we got a responsibility to figure out a way to lift it up?
So I think, speaking on behalf of the faith leaders, you're the guy who has to worry about majorities. You've got to get 50% plus one. We believe that...
Ideally, a lot more than that.
There you go. We believe if we're with God, even if we stand alone, we're doing the righteous work. The power of standing with God, who divides the Sea of Reeds, the Red Sea, and for Christians overcomes death and the grave. Jesus didn't have a majority on Easter Sunday morning, but he had the power of God. And I think we've got to make sure we don't forget. We don't have to do 50% plus one. We've just got to do what's right, and God triumphs.
Yeah. That's the point you were making. By the way, Lori kind of made that point to me the other day, and I'm like, what are you talking about now? She's going to be like, Marshall made the same point. Yeah. There you go. Sorry, Rabbi.
No, that's okay. Just to build on that point that Reverend Marshall just made, I think needing to stick with with our convictions regardless. I think, none of our religions are Pollyanna. None of our religions think that the world is a perfect place and we're all just going to, go around and hold hands. We all know that we all have creation stories of the world that include the existence of good and evil. I don't believe that there are any good people or evil people. I think everyone has both inclinations inside of them. And I think the message that you guys put out in, where we find the light is you have to keep looking for that light no matter what. Judaism is no stranger to attack. In the Passover Seder, we say, B'chol dor vador, in every generation, they have risen up to try to get rid of us. But in every generation, we've stuck around. I think Judaism knows as much as any religion that when the times get tough, the tough just continue to keep going and to continue to seek out the light, to insist on the good inclination over the evil inclination in all of us. I did some prison chaplaincy work also when I was in rabbinical school, and I know that every single person is more than their worst day. Even, God forbid, the person who attacked this place, that is more than just the worst thing that they have done. So even those evil comments that come on, you just have to keep putting the positive spin out there. Keep putting those pictures of, you celebrating Iftar here in the governor's residence. Keep putting the pictures of this out, because there is always going to be difficulty. There's always going to be struggle out there. And we just have to keep putting out the positive spin, seeking out the positive in every person, seeking out the good inclination, and fostering our own good inclinations by having gatherings like this, to give ourselves strength to keep pursuing the good when it would be so easy to continue to seek selfishness in a world that keeps trying to attack us. We just have to keep supporting each other to reach out and seek out the positive, because it's always there.
Yeah, I agree. John, how do you think about this? Because, you joked before, you got a firehouse, he's got a church, but you've got a foot
Well,
in one camp and a foot in the other. How do you think about this?
we tried to show some love for the fire company to our governor and his family when this tragedy happened. At a regular meeting of ours, it was horrific what the guys had to talk about and say about how bad this was, and what in the world could we do? So we just did a small little thing. But the love was returned a couple weeks later when we had some horrendous mountain fires. Some of you may have heard about.
Yeah.
That was terrible, but it was good. The community filled us rooms full of snacks, water, Gatorade. Our governor came to Kings Gap, the state facility, and shook hands with all the firemen and the officers. State agencies worked with us, and it was a good experience because there was love among the people to do a good job. There was one crew that was trapped, and the rest of us got them out. Luckily, it was very, very close. But we saw love there just the same as we saw it here, and humanity will come forward. And if given the opportunity, they will show love and concern. And I think our fire hall is very small. It's nothing like Harrisburg. It's in a rural community. But we do have a lot of support from the Amish and the Mennonite folk, and we welcome them. It's more than a firehouse building that was just built. We've had funerals in the building, weddings, banquets, and hundreds of events, because there seems to be a love. There is no swearing, there is no drugs, there is no alcohol. There's none of the nonsense that permeates a lot of our society. I have the chairman of the trustees here today, was my driver. He's sitting over there with his wife. And in the fire hall, they all work together. It would be great if our society would be the same.
Yeah.
We would all work together. We'd have none of this nonsense of people not being paid and decisions that are difficult to understand. And I think it comes from our leadership, from our governor. I look at that sign over there in Pennsylvania. We're a small, small county in Cumberland County and a small, small firehouse. But we have an opportunity to provide love and concern to people at the top and people at the bottom.
You do.
And hopefully, even though we don't have a church, we can provide that.
Amen. Amen. Thanks.
I would like to make for Governor, like for your comments, like, how do we get better, right? Like some, as other leaders said, it has to come from the home. First, like, the teach your kids. You can always teach, you can always pray your own religion. There's nothing wrong, but respect other religion, respect each other. Do not teach any native things about other religion. And also, lately what I'm seeing in like worldwide, not just only in this country, worldwide, even the influencers are talking about religion and making comments, negative comments on other religion, which is affecting worldwide, which is going very like negative things goes wild like a fire. Like those negative things, people gets very fast than the positive things, right? So that's very affecting. Even the leaders, some of the leaders in the worldwide, they are talking against various religions, which is maybe not good for all. But we need to see leaders like you to come out of that and to more get onto the positive side than negative, like respecting all the religions and various caste or everything, this kind of thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Please.
As you said, Governor, how we can make sense out of the whole thing. I think if we go back to the basics, we all believe in one God, one Creator, but we have a different way of practicing it. If we can, Guru Nanak Dev Ji, the founder of Sikhism, was asked, who's better, Muslim or Sikh? Because there was a problem of religion at that time, in that time of the century. He said, well, if you're Hindu, be a best Hindu. If you're Muslim, be a best Muslim. Just practice your own. Mm-hmm. So practically, if you go to any Gurudwara's temple in India, even here, some places, there's 4 doors to every Gurudwara. You won't be asked where you're from, who you are, what do you practice, what your faith is. You come in, you want to sit, any place, you want to do your prayer, it's open to you. Then we have a langar, a free kitchen. We all we have a famous Gurdwara Sahib in Amritsar, Punjab. More than 100,000 people come across all over the world, sit down and have a meal. More than 100,000 people every day. And that practice is
That's
in
amazing.
every Gurdwara. It doesn't matter if we are in Anola or in Blue Mountain or any place in the world. Every Gurdwara has a free kitchen. Meal gets cooked there from scratch or organic. And we all sit down and share and talk about it.
Wow.
I think that's what the world needs. This is basics. And believe it or not, the first casualty after 9/11 was a Sikh person in Texas. He was wearing turban because somebody mistaken with his identity.
Yeah.
So going back to that, we have to look as a human being. We are come in the world the same way. We go in the world the same way. When we hear 50, 60, 70, 80 years, and half of the time we sleep through it, there's not much left after that. Why can't we have that basic in our life?
Yeah.
And love each other. And like a brother said, teach your kids the same thing you want to practice. And same thing you want your neighbor to live, you want to have best for your neighbor also. And his neighbor, then it will be a heaven on earth.
It's pretty universal.
Yes, sir.
So the Sikh temple is a judgment-free zone.
Yes, sir.
So if I showed up, hypothetically, 4 or 5 minutes late, you wouldn't judge me.
No, because I'm constantly late.
So you would not call me out from the pulpit the way maybe Pastor Mitchell did when I showed up.
Well, you gain whatever you gain, well, as much time you spend there.
Maybe
No
that's,
judgment.
that's some shared humanity you should pick up there.
I'm definitely moved.
Thank you.
I think also you should not discount the impact you two have had on us
Right.
by living your faith in the public.
Yes.
That's not normal in the public sector, in the public sphere. And I think for many of us, we're on Friday afternoons or Friday nights or Sunday morning, when you show up, you belong because we feel a religious and spiritual connection to you, to how you've raised your children, to what you believe. And we see, without blurring the lines of establishment clause, you wear your religion and faith like a loose garment, very comfortably. And for all of us, I believe, I know certainly for me, it's good at nighttime that I go to sleep knowing that the chief executive officer of the state I live in is praying and looking beyond himself in polls. That means everything to me.
That means a lot to me. And I never imagined I would be in this position, let alone be in a position where I would live as openly as I am about my faith, and that would impact others, particularly leading spiritual leaders in my state in the way that you just said. That means a lot. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Any other thoughts as we get ready to close here? Please.
As Brother said, it is encouraging when the state leaders say, this is who is open. There's nothing in the agenda. This is who I am. This is what I practice. And that will help a lot, not only in I think, the religious aspects of the lives, but in the other social lives. Somebody doesn't have a courage to either being discriminated or hate or because of gender or caste, whatnot, color, it gives people encouragement. A former governor can stand there and be open about his life and transparency. I think that makes that
Thank you.
I always think about you guys and family. That it encourages us to do a little bit more. Or more important, because it makes us comfortable.
Yeah.
And some people don't, because they like to, how I'm going to be perceived or whatnot. But this is the comfort we need in the state, in the local, and national, which we're lacking little.
Yeah.
And when you stand there, sir, on the TV, we see as a statement. We encourage it. We treat everybody equal, and we say what we say,
Yeah.
which goes a long way.
I would say that the fact that you feel comfortable wearing your turban in Pennsylvania, it fills my heart. I remember we were at Diwali. I commented on how beautiful some of the folks looked in their dress, and they said, well, thanks for letting me, feel comfortable dressing like this. I've had, particularly over the last couple of years, and this happened to Laura too, the number of people who have a Jewish star wearing around their neck and maybe tuck it in a little deeper, but who will come over to me and show it to me and say, I've been scared to wear this, but knowing how you live your life and how open you are, it gives me a sense of comfort and pride in wearing it. And I never imagined that would be a role for us to play. I never imagined that was, our responsibility, if you will. But we take that very seriously. The fact that people can feel more comfortable being who they are because of how we live our lives and how we do our service, it means a lot. And it's a tremendous compliment what you just said, and we take that very, very seriously.
Thank you, Governor. Also, I would like to, since you brought this Diwali, I would like to, thank you for making the state holiday. You signed the law last October.
Yeah.
And it was so.
We
so
signed it together.
together. Yeah, I was there too. I was
Yep.
there, and it is really appreciate, and it's a very great for our community too. Signing into state law it's not easy. Like that means like you do think about other religions. You do think about others. That's all it comes from. It's not that everybody can do that, but it has to. It's not every politician will do that, or maybe you do know what you're doing and what you can think about others. That's kind of very nice of you, and really appreciate making that sign into law. That's really great.
Of course.
Great of-
And look, I think it is important to know, because we should find the goodness, right, as we talked about here today. That bill only made it to my desk because a large number of Democrats and Republicans
yes.
came together around that. And so that is another, for all the differences we have and all the battles we have over policies and what have you, these guys write about that stuff all the time. The reality is, on something like that, we all came together to see our shared humanity, and that's a beautiful thing. And that's a reason to feel hopeful and optimistic.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, Rabbi, I'm sorry, Bishop, were you going to say
I was
something?
just going to say, I think Pastor Mitchell gave us our challenge I'm going to look for ways, again, to incorporate, some of the experience of our common faith, our common humanity into my preaching as I go around the 15 counties of my diocese. And Easter I'm still working on that homily. So, yeah, to be able to really be challenged to say, as also that certain actions or behaviors that do unfortunately characterize a lot of what happens is inconsistent with who we are as people of faith. That's a challenging word that people need to hear, and we do need to call it out when we see it.
Yeah. I want to encourage this group to find ways to keep working together. We come together oftentimes and speak out against political violence after it happens. And I so appreciate how all of you raise your voices in moments of tragedy to try and heal. We have to find ways when the seeds of political violence are being planted before the incident occurs, to find ways to work together to stop that from growing, stop that from building up in our community. And there are no easy answers here, but the one thing I know for sure is that each of you obviously have a responsibility to do that work, and I know you accept that, but each of you have incredibly powerful voices. And I want to work with you to see what we can do to heal our world here and repair our world a bit. So we've got to do that work together.
My friend Reverend Earl Harris puts it, you have to make a friend before you need a friend. And he and my predecessor, Rabbi Eric Citrin, helped create the Freedom Seder that we have to sort of celebrate Jewish and African American traditions around going from from slavery to freedom, God forbid.
Yeah.
And just having that every year as a touch point, especially around Passover, for the whole interfaith community has meant a lot in terms of having those friendships before we have to, and that's what enabled us to come together in moments like last year.
Yeah. Thank you, Rabbi.
Just really quickly.
I would like to make one. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, so I segue straight into that, where it's not enough for us as leaders to model that behavior. What we've done with Road of Shalom in Philly is brought together our congregations as well. So we had a whole series of events where us as leaders, myself and Rabbi Eli and a few others, got together ourselves first, got on the same page, and then we had the Jewish and Christian communities to master the law. We talked about Ramadan and Eid, had an iftar together, and did fellowship. So not just Muslims at the table all together, but mix everybody up a little bit, get to know each other. And then we did the same thing. We went down the Road of Shalom, my congregation, and also the Christian congregation went down the Road of Shalom, and the same thing to the Perfecting Church in South Jersey. So it's not enough for leaders to model, right? We have to bring our people together. We have to, be in community with one another, because that's when you get the chance to sit down and talk with each other, get to know each other, and then I think that's when those bonds start to come together. And it's been a good model for us, and we've been able to, see some progress. And I'll tell you, when martial law was vandalized, the first two people that were there were Rabbi Eli and Pastor Kevin Brown. Before any Muslim imams or anybody popped up, those two were there first. So,
And your congregants saw that.
absolutely, absolutely. So it's a big deal that we're there for each other in tragedy, but also just getting to know each other in just everyday, happenings and doings. Yeah.
Yeah. We just had a mosque in Pike County, so sort of northeastern part of our state. Literally, someone shot it full of bullets after their iftar, and I went up there the next day or day after, and they made a similar comment. They said, the Jewish guy showed up, and maybe some others from our own faith hadn't yet. But it's important that in those moments we stand together. But it's also important that when the seeds are being planted that lead to those moments, that we are standing together. And you did the hard work in those moments before, so that Rabbi Eli and others were there for you in those moments.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Since I would like to make one quote from the Mahatma Gandhi on the religion, especially because he's a peace, father of our nation, and he's a non-violence guy. When somebody asked about the religion, he said, "Religion is truth. Religion is my God and truth, based on non-violence. Truth is my God. So there is no place for the violence." That's what he had said in one of the quote.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Well, Rosie's giving me the eye here, so it feels like, Rosie, do you want us to get up? Do you want us to stay here? Okay. Okay. Thank you. I just want to say before we leave the table, what I said to you in the Erie room before we walked out of here, thank you for gracing us with your presence. I have had, Laura and I were talking about this at, it was like 3 a.m. when I was nudging you. Just a lot of mixed emotions and a lot of things to, sort of work through as we prepare to have our Seder here in this beautiful room surrounded by our fellow Pennsylvanians tonight. And I will tell you, this conversation has really helped me a lot as I prepare to get centered and lead our Seder. So thank you for being here. Thank you very, very much. We appreciate you. Thank you. Okay. We're going to give you our...
Podium mic check for cameras. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Checking from the podium. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One, two, three, four, five, six. Everyone good? Camera wise? All right.
I don't have much more to add beyond the conversation that we had here. I feel blessed to have been in the presence of these wonderful spiritual leaders. I think they helped me as I prepare for our Seder here and get my thoughts together. And as I look at the beautiful setup here that our wonderful resident staff led by inviting in our fellow Pennsylvanians to celebrate with us. This is an important moment for our family. I think it's an important moment for our Commonwealth too, to begin to move forward and to move forward in a way that is inclusive, to move forward in a way where we are people who have learned quite a bit from this tragedy, but also have seen from this tragedy the goodness of our fellow Pennsylvanians in a deeper way. And to be touched by that has strengthened my resolve to serve them. And I say this with the utmost humility. I think it has made me a better public servant. It's made me a better man. It's made me a better Jew, and I hope it's made me a better father and husband as well. I've been really touched by the words of our faith leaders and touched by the people that I've had the chance to get to know along the way here. So thank you for being here, and thank you for this important conversation. We have a lot of work to do, as we talked about, and I look forward to doing that work together. I want to bring up one of my best friends in the entire world and someone who's helped me learn a lot more about myself and my faith, and who's been there for me every step of the way in my journey in public service, and that's my friend Reverend Marshall Mitchell from Salem Baptist Church in Montgomery County. For those of you who have been in my office, you'll see that there is a picture of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. preaching from a pulpit that hangs on the wall right near our conference table. Dr. King was preaching at Salem Baptist Church in Jenkintown, the same church that is now led so ably by Marshall Mitchell. And that picture for me is a reminder not just of the important work, of course, that Dr. King has done in our country, but of the deep friendship I have with Marshall Mitchell, and of the importance of places of faith to bring people together from all different walks of life and to work together towards civil rights and to work together toward a better and a more hopeful and a more linked shared humanity. And with that, Marsh, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I will probably disappoint some who expect the Baptist minister to be long-winded, but I think the governor spoke to our concern. Our concern last year at this time was for you and Lori, for the family, for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, for Jews everywhere. It was an attack upon all of us. And I think you heard from Muslims and Protestants, Catholics, Sikhs. You heard from all Hindus and other Jews that this is something that we will not abide, and that in our houses of faith, in our homes, we will always convey the right message, to do the right thing, to stand up in the face of political and religious violence, and also to send a message here to the Commonwealth that we will not dwell on the past, but will move forward to a brighter sense of what we can be and what we should be. And I think today was a fantastic display of the cohesion with which you lead. And I think you also heard from more than a few religious leaders that how you live your life religiously and spiritually moves us in our pulpits and bimas in our mosque and our temples. And so we're here to encourage you that this Passover would be everything that you need it to be, and to remind you that God does move us from slavery and to a brighter freedom. So we're grateful to God for you.
Thanks, Fred. Thank you, man. With that, if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer a few. Yeah.
Something you said caught my attention. We all...
Just one thing?
Sure, well, you could say that. We denounce stuff very easily after something happens, but before, how do you get to it? I wonder if there's a message now for people that maybe seeing what's happening around the world, a war happening that involves Israel, the U.S., and Iran. They might think it has religious overtones, and we're talking about religion today. Is there a message to maybe cool things off and not spark it even more when maybe someone's in that mode where they're ready to maybe react to something maybe too much?
I think there's a lot happening in the world right now that sparks passions and excites people, causes people to go out and peacefully protest and knock on the doors of their elected representatives and demand to be heard. That is a good thing. I want more of that to happen. I want more people to be engaged. We just want them to be engaged in a way that is peaceful. And we want them to be engaged in a way that is constructive, where their voices can be heard. Look, I wish the President of the United States did things to bring down the temperature in the country, not raise it. But I can't dwell on that. I've got to try and lead by example here, and I've got to try and set the tone here in Pennsylvania in a way that creates space for people to be heard, for their passions to be understood, but to encourage people to do that in a thoughtful and peaceful manner. Look, just this past weekend, you had millions of people across the country show up at rallies, the No Kings rallies, and did so in a way that was peaceful. There were no injuries. I think there was maybe one minor arrest in Philadelphia. It was completely peaceful. That's the way it should be. So we want to encourage speech. We want to encourage people speaking out about what they care about. We just want them to do it in a peaceful way. And I think the more we can model that behavior on issues that excite passions, the more we can show others that the answers to our problems are not political violence, but more speech that is responsible, more speech that is peaceful.
Going into this religious weekend, what is your prayer for the people of Pennsylvania?
Part of what had me lying awake last night, annoying Lori, was trying to find those words that I want to be able to share at our Seder tonight, trying to find the words of prayer that can offer comfort and hope to others, and to try and find words of prayer that I could say at this table, but would still resonate at the bishop's service on Sunday. There is a saying in Judaism that Lori reminded me of the other day. The Hebrew word is omets lev, to have courage of heart. I think what I would pray for all people right now is that we find more courage of heart to take the first step towards something that is more peaceful, towards something that's more inclusive, towards something that is more helpful, toward more light instead of darkness. We read in the Haggadah, which is the prayer book that's used for Passover. And we read, of course, in the text that'll be read on Sunday at Easter, stories of extraordinary things happening, right? We're going to read a story about how the Jews were escaping bondage and ran through a sea that parted. Having courage of heart was for that first person to step into the sea before it had parted, and to have faith that they would have a safe passage through. There are example after example after example every day where people show that courage to take a first step that ultimately leads to an extraordinarily positive outcome. But you don't know that when you're taking the first step. So I suppose the prayer that I would offer is that people of all faiths have the courage to take those first steps. And if we all do that, I think we're going to have a far better world to live in. And by the way, that should be the prayer I use. How about that? You help me think. Someone should give that back to me. Yeah. Yeah, good, Charlie. I'm happy to take all your questions. Sorry, Julian was hiding back there. Julian was too.
On a personal level, about what happened a year ago, I was just wondering, since this residence has been fully restored and is back and fully functioning and everything, have you found that you've been any less comfortable bringing your family here? And my part two would just be, knowing what happened after the Passover Seder last year, do you think you're going to have any trouble when the guests have left? Do you think you're going to have any trouble getting a sound sleep tonight?
Well, how about I speak for myself? This obviously this past year, everyone has worked very hard to rebuild the residence and to secure it. And I feel absolutely safe here. I'm grateful to the resident staff. I'm grateful to all the construction crews that worked here. And I'm incredibly grateful and am comforted by the presence of the Pennsylvania State Police, who I have 100% confidence in to keep me and my family safe. I have said, Charlie, in the past that, you know, our family had a lot to work through. We've worked through that. We're going to continue to work through that. But we're all really excited to be here tonight together to celebrate Passover.
Well, Charlie kind of took my question, but I was wondering if the same group of people that was here last year will also be here tonight.
Some. It's a much larger group. We were really purposeful in inviting people from all across Pennsylvania, both tonight and tomorrow night. So it'll be far larger, but obviously our core family is here, and some of the members of our extended family who were here a year ago will be back tonight.
Have they all been here since then?
I think so, yes. I think in one form or fashion they've all been here, yes.
You were talking about some of the feelings today, especially thinking back on last year. Would you feel comfortable sharing in words what those emotions are? And obviously with the State Art Dinner tonight, does that also kind of mark a reclaiming of this space in some capacity? And have you also been able to settle your feelings when it comes to the person who carried out that horrible attack?
I settled my feelings toward that person long ago. I don't walk around thinking about him. I don't walk around having emotions about him. Our justice system worked. I've been thankful both publicly and privately to District Attorney Chardo, who I thought handled that incredibly well and swiftly. And that person is now dealing with the consequences of his actions. I really haven't spent a whole lot of time thinking about that. I think the most I think the hardest thing for me emotionally, and I've spoken about this, has been this conflict between a father's desire to always protect their children and doing a job I love that, because of the rise in political violence in our society, has created a tension there. Meaning I'm deeply committed to this work of public service that put my family at risk. And that's a hard thing to manage through. And we've talked about it as a family. We talked about it as a family before I decided to run for re-election. And our family is committed to public service, and our family is deeply committed to not letting the bad guys win, the people that want to bring violence into our public spaces, the people that want to target public officials. We will not let them win. And the way you let them win is by exiting the stage out of fear. We are not fearful. We are determined to keep doing this work, and we're all in as a family together on that.
Speaking of political differences, what are your thoughts on the Trump administration's plan to limit mail-in ballots?
Well, that was a shift there. Look, Article 1 of our Constitution makes clear that elections are to be run by the states. Donald Trump can sign whatever executive order he wants when it comes to elections. It will be meaningless. It will be overturned in the courts, and our states will continue to run our elections. Here in Pennsylvania, you'll note that I appointed Al Schmidt, a Republican, to serve as our Secretary of the Commonwealth, to oversee our elections in conjunction with election directors in each of our 67 counties, some Republican, some Democrat. And that's because we believe that the administration of elections should be nonpartisan exercises, and that the good people of Pennsylvania will vote, whether they vote in person or they vote by mail. They will vote, their votes will be counted, and the will of the people will be respected. I would remind you that Donald Trump has a long history of trying to undermine the will of the people, disrespecting the people of Pennsylvania. He went to court he and his allies did 43 different times against us after the 2020 election, trying to literally throw out the votes of Pennsylvanians. By the way, in that election cycle, in court, Donald Trump went 0-43 and I went 43-0, and we preserved and protected the franchise of all Pennsylvanians, and we had a free and fair, safe and secure election. I want to assure the good people of Pennsylvania that we will have another free and fair, safe and secure election, and the will of the people will be respected. And I'm willing to go out on a limb and predict some Republicans will get elected and some Democrats will get elected, because that's the way our system works. The people choose their representatives, and the people will continue to have that choice, not Donald Trump.
Tom, last question.
Governor, a lot of religious leaders are here. There's also a lot of Americans, Pennsylvanians who are not. And their differences might be purely political, economic, what have you. I'm wondering what you hope can come out of a discussion like this for people who, for whatever reason, may not be thinking about those religious ties or community that's being talked about here, and they're worried about things that to them are a much bigger problem.
I'm worried about those things too. I'm worried about bringing down the costs for Pennsylvanians, making sure their communities are safer, making sure that their kids' schools are better, and creating more jobs, even though we've created more jobs in all but 2 states in the entire country. I'm proud of that work, and I know that's on people's minds, and I work my tail off every day to deliver on those things. I think it is important that we have space to have arguments over those issues. What's the best way to create a job, or the best way to fix our schools, or the best ways to keep our communities safe? And we should have differences. And when we iron out those differences, you've seen that play out in our legislative process here. We ultimately end up with a better product. We end up with a product that reflects more people and their desires, and more constituencies, and more counties, and more districts. That is a good thing, and that is a healthy part of our process. What is not healthy is when people inject vitriol and division and hate into that conversation. And what I hope the average Pennsylvanian thinks after hearing a conversation like this, whether they worship like any of us up here or choose not to worship at all, is that there are ways to sit down at a table and have dialogue with people that you might have a difference from. You might look different than them, you might think different or be raised different than them, but that we can still sit down at a table and find ways to iron out our differences. That's what I hope people take from this. I don't want anybody to watch this and think, boy, I've got to pray like the bishop in order to be heard. That's not the way it works, and the bishop will be the first person to tell you that. But hopefully they see us sitting down together, finding common ground, and that can become an example of what we need to do more of in our politics. I really believe that Pennsylvania is a model for that. I really do. Starting with William Penn, setting up a place that would be warm and welcoming for all, to modern day politics, where we've got a divided legislature and a pretty divided state politically, yet we do find ways to come together. And if you all sometimes were able to look past the noise and look past the shiny objects some people are flashing at you, you would see that behind the scenes a lot of hard work is being done. And there's a lot of people coming together, finding that common ground. That's what people expect us to do. That is what I do every day. I find strength from my faith and from other faith leaders to do that work. Others may not find that as a source of strength, and that's okay. But the bottom line is we need to model behavior that allows people to come to the table, have tough conversations, iron out differences, and make progress in their communities. And that's what we try and do here in Pennsylvania. That's the Pennsylvania way. I want to wish everyone here, if you celebrate Passover, a wonderful Passover. If you celebrate Easter, I hope you have a blessed and meaningful Easter. And if you don't celebrate any of these holidays, I hope that it marks a moment in the calendar where you just stop and you nod toward a neighbor, you offer a helping hand toward a neighbor, you say something kind toward a neighbor. That's ultimately going to help us as we try and stop the seeds of violence and division from flourishing here in Pennsylvania, and instead bring more kindness there. Of course, it was one of our famous Pennsylvanians, Mr. Rogers, who always said to look for the helpers and to be a good neighbor. That's what we need more of in Pennsylvania. And I want to wish everyone happy holidays, and I want to wish everyone just happiness. Thank you very much. Yeah. Thanks, Jeff.